Hi y'all, so today I'm going to talk about the ways that I stay calm, ways of coping with anxiety and things like that. I've made a list of 10 things that I'm going to quickly go through, and just to give a little bit of a background, I have struggled a lot with anxiety. For most of my life, I didn't even have the language for, there is no word for anxiety in my language, and there's basically no language for mental health issues. So most of my life, I was just not aware that I was struggling with these things. But as of recently, of course, I've, learned about these things and have the language for it. But in particular, the last 3 years of doing a PhD, of being a first generation high school graduate, currently in the PhD program, being severely unprepared, everything about academia being like a anxiety-inducing thing, like 2/3 of us being clinically depressed and anxious and so on. I've had to struggle with it a lot. My first year, I literally almost died from anxiety attacks. But that's a story for another time. So I have some methods that work for me that I'm gonna share with y'all, and hopefully it can help someone else. So the first thing on my list is to have a routine. I am big on routines. I love routines so much. And I think that I don't know, maybe it's just my sense, but I think there's this sort of negative attachment or stigma around the word routine. And in my mind, I've always loved routines, but in my mind, it really helped for me to transition from using routine to ritual. And ritual is basically a routine with an intention. So I have a hard morning routine that I never skip any single aspect of it. I have a nighttime routine and just things that are to me like rituals that I like to do every morning, every evening, and to do things consistently. I mean, consistency is key in everything. So whether you choose to, meditate in the morning or work out in the morning or read in the evening or things like that, just to have a routine really helps. And I do a 7 a.m. workout every single day, and that really sets the tone for the rest of my day. Once I've gotten up to do that, I just follow the steps on my routine. So yeah, routines are great. Number 2 is working out. I think I talk about this at least once a week, but the ways in which working out and sports and just being active has helped me with my anxiety, y'all, I cannot express. It has changed everything. I used to have insomnia for years. I used to have all of these other things that just poof, disappeared the minute I started working out. So for me, as I mentioned before, shout out to F45, best workout fitness class in the whole universe that I'm so blessed to have access to. I do that workout every day at 7 a.m. and I absolutely love it. It alternates between strength and cardio. But I also want to say that it really doesn't matter what you do. Currently I'm quarantined at home and the gyms are closed and all of that. So in the morning I'll go and I'll run some laps around the track, or I don't know, do some home workouts or something. It really doesn't matter what you do. I'm also big on the fact that trauma and all types of negative feelings and anxieties lives in our body, physically it lives in our body. So moving it out really does help us release that stuff, and release happiness hormones and all of that stuff. So I think my biggest advice to everybody is to just find a way to move your body, and whether it's yoga, whether it's running or boxing, or the simplest of 15-minute home workout in the morning, it does wonders. It's so helpful and I want to be very clear about something, that although of course I love being physically strong and fit and able to do things, I absolutely love it, the primary reason why I work out and the primary reason, the force in me that keeps me going back and that pushes me to, is the benefits it has for my mental health. No lie, that's the primary reason. Everything else is secondary. The way that working out truly makes me happy, honestly. Okay, third point is eating healthy. Plant-based, healthy. I'm not gonna tell y'all to go vegan or anything like that. It doesn't have to be that. That's, personal choice or preference. But eating healthy does help reduce anxiety. It helps to help you stay calm and all of that stuff. There's a really good book, I'm gonna link it below. It's called The Mind-Gut Connection, and it talks about how, what we eat can help like reduce our anxieties and depressive thoughts and negative thoughts, or it can foster them. So of course a lot of like junk food and sugars and all of that is not good for our mental health. I'm not even talking about like body, like physically or stuff like that, but mentally it's not good for us. And I think that this is something that all of us can relate to, but when you have eaten healthy for a couple of days, like for whatever reason, you feel better. And when you have eaten, like trash for a couple of days, you feel worse. And not physically, but like mentally, you do feel. So I do strongly believe that like we are what we eat, like what we put in our body matters, and it matters on the mental level, on the emotional level, like how it makes us feel. And I think, if you haven't tested that, try it out. Like that's what I always tell with people trying to go vegan as well. Like give it 21 days and tell me how you feel. And it's the same about like being plant-based or just like generally eating healthier, like avoiding things that are bad for you. It does help you like be calmer, less anxious, like more peaceful, more centered, and just like better within yourself. Okay, number 4 on my list is meditation. I want to preface this by saying that I've only been meditating for about 2 months now, but I've been doing it every single day, and it has been life-changing, and it's one of those things that I'm never ever going to give up. Like never. Like once it's become part of my routine, as it has right now, it's gonna stay on it forever because it's the best thing in the whole world. I don't know why it took me so long to start doing it, because I'd heard people, my mom has been telling me forever how amazing it is, how good it is, how much she loves it. And I've always just been like, yeah, of course, like we all know meditation is great, but I'm not gonna do it. But I finally started, and I started because as a Hopkins student, we have free access to this app called Calm that has guided meditations. And so I did like a 7-day intro course, a 21-day course. And at this point, like those courses were very helpful to begin with. And if you are able to, I'm sure Calm you have to pay for, but I'm sure there's also apps that are free for guided meditation, or YouTube has a ton of guided meditations. I would suggest beginning with that, because I would have no clue what to do had I started without the app. Now, 2 months in, I don't need the app as much. Like I'm perfectly comfortable with just like sitting and, meditating and so on. But in the beginning, it's really useful. And honestly, like, not to sound like super corny, but in the app they do say, like, I remember like one of the quotes that popped up was like, meditation is something that takes 1% of the time in your day and makes the rest of 99% better. And that's literally how it is. Like, it's amazing. So the next point is mindfulness, and it's separate from meditation. And it might be a little bit tricky to like get here, but mindfulness is something that we do all day long. So it's not just like the 10-20 minutes of meditation that you sit for in the morning or in the evening. And honestly, like if I wasn't meditating, I think this point wouldn't make much sense to me. But because I have been meditating for a while now, and I've read some, work on mindfulness and so on, it makes sense. If you haven't, I highly, highly encourage whether to just begin with some meditation that focuses on mindfulness, or like reading any of the classic mindfulness books. I can link some below. But basically, once you become more mindful in general, like, through your meditation, you can become more mindful throughout your day. Like eating meals without watching something, just like enjoying the food, or, like smelling something, touching something, seeing something, listening to music, and just focusing on that thing and being really mindful and present in the moment. And to some extent, this is something that comes naturally, at least for me, from meditation. Like it just kind of like bleeds into your day. Sometimes it doesn't, and you can also like set reminders in your phone, like be mindful, or like think, for example, like I've made mental notes, like every time I wash dishes, I'm gonna practice mindfulness. And then I really like try to be in the moment, but it's a practice. It's just something that you carry with you throughout your day. And there's a ton of resources about mindfulness and so on. And I think that does really help you. Anything that forces you to be more present in the moment helps you with anxiety. Number 6 on my list is nature time, being in the nature. I think once again, this is something we all know and it's true. And even for me, sometimes, when Saturday, Sunday comes and Isaiah and I plan to go on a hike or something, before we leave the house, I'm like, we could just stay at home. Why should we go? It's so far away. It's not going to be worth it. But the minute we're in nature, it's like the best feeling ever. Nature takes the anxiety away from you. Like being in the forest, being with the water or trees or the fresh air and all of that, it just has magical qualities. Like I don't know how else to explain it, but it just does. It's amazing, and being in the nature, I think like all of us can agree, helps reduce anxiety, helps us go inwards and like put all the external stuff away, unplug or whatever. But being in the nature 100% helps me with my anxiety, helps me stay calm. And I currently don't live in a place where I have access to much nature. Now that we have a car, it's a little bit easier, but it's still quite a bit away. Even being in a park, or honestly, like even if you're like in a really urban city center, plants at home, like it helps. It really, really does help. Any type of any nature you can carve out, like a tiny bit of trees or like a tiny bit of park here and there, or of course if you can, going hiking, going to the sea. I grew up by the sea. Half my country is a beach, and even though it's not really hot all the time, the sea calms me down. Just like sitting and listening to the water, hearing the water, seeing it, breathing it, it helps with anxiety so much. Okay, number 7 on my list is creative outlets. I think that in general, the way that our lives are structured under capitalism, whatever office job we have, or if we're, students, of course not all of us, but for most of us, creativity is something that there is just no space for it, like no space for it at all. And I think we need to be much more intentional in trying to carve space out for it, because humans are creative beings. We are all creative in one way or another, which, just a side note, you don't have to be good at things to do them. So I'm not good at singing, I'm not good at dancing, I'm not good at drawing, I'm not good at many, many, many artistic things. I do all of them because I love them, because it's important for us to be creative. So creative things like drawing or painting. I have a coloring book. I have yet to use it, but I have it. So things like that, or even like writing shitty poetry, it doesn't matter. Whatever you are called to do, whatever you're inspired to do, just trying to remove that, I'm doing this for someone, I'm doing this for profit or whatever. Get that out of your head and just do it. And I do think that like being creative, especially in these slow processes of like watercolors or like just drawing or something, really helps. Like, once again, it helps you focus yourself in the moment. It helps remove other things, out of your head, and it really helps you reduce anxiety. Okay, so number 8 on my list is similar to the creative things. It's dancing. But dancing, I needed to separate it out because it's more than just being creative. It's also moving your body. It's moving with music. And it's honestly something that like over the last 2 months when I was studying for my comprehensive exams for my PhD, I had extremely, extremely, extremely high levels of anxiety, breathing problems. My skin was breaking out for the first time in my entire life. I had never experienced the kind of symptoms I was having from so much stress and anxiety. And I tried so many different things, like taking baths, this and that. But I did find that like what really helped me the most was like in the evening when I was extremely, extremely anxious and like I couldn't even go to bed. My head was just like, all over the place. Putting on music and like dancing for a full hour helped me reduce my anxiety so much. Like I would always be listening to early 2000s R&B and hip hop because it's the best music that's ever existed and been made, and nothing better will ever be made. So I would just be listening to that and dancing like crazy around the apartment. It doesn't matter. No one's looking, you're doing this for yourself. I was shocked at how much just like letting yourself dance for an hour inside your own home or whatever can do. And really, it really, really did help a lot. Okay, number 9 on my list is monitoring social media consumption. Social media gives us anxiety. I want to be very careful when I talk about social media because I do strongly believe that social media is what we make it out to be. So when people judge Instagram or Twitter or whatever, that's y'all's feed. That's what you choose to follow. Like, my Instagram and my Twitter is inspiring, educational, informative, amazing, you know. Maybe it has like some fashion here and there in it that I've actually tried to remove for other reasons, but mostly it's inspiring, it's amazing, and I do think that, like, as I always say, like, I learn more from Twitter about politics than I do in my classes at Hopkins. Like, I've learned more about, you know, feminism and self-growth and spirituality and other things from Instagram than I have from, like, a lot of other places. So I do think it is what we make it out to be. But we do, all of us, spend too much time in our days staring at a screen. Like, that's a fact. If we work at a 9 to 5, whatever, we're staring at a computer, we watch something on TV or whatever, and we're on our phone, and it's too much. Like, it's entirely too much. I'm aware of it. I know that I consume social media way too much, and my camera died, but I'm back. Anyways, I was talking about social media. So I do think it's extremely important, not just for our anxiety, but primarily for our anxiety and mental health, well-being in general, to be very intentional about what we consume on social media. Like, I love following the Kardashians. They're terrible and anti-black and capitalists and horrible, but I enjoy watching their fashion and so on. I unfollowed all of them a couple months ago, and I unfollowed a lot of like pretty girl Instagrams in general, because there was this study that showed that when women are exposed to like unrealistic beauty standards or whatever on Instagram, like the parts in our brain responsible for like PTSD like light up or something, which I'm sure it's like, it sounds more dramatic than it probably is, but it just like made me think through the fact that even though I may think, oh, I'm looking at this image and it's not affecting me because I'm smart and I know that this is unrealistic and da-da-da-da-da. In reality, like, a lot of this stuff happens in our subconsciousness and so on, things that we can't control. So I realized that, nah, I'm not taking those risks. Unfollow. But more than just that, like, once you're on your feed, notice which things bring you anxiety. For me, yes, seeing unrealistic beauty standards and women who have had tons of plastic surgery but try to pass it off as natural and gains or whatever, that gives me anxiety. A lot of other things that, apart from that, a lot of like negative information, I can't deal with it. I can't be hearing, I'm incredibly sensitive. I can't be hearing about injustices that happen in the world daily and like be bombarded with it. I can't watch videos of violence of any kind. I'm super sensitive of that. And I think a lot of us are, even if we think that, nah, that doesn't bother me or whatever. So be cautious of that and try to rid a lot of that stuff out of your social media. And another point to remember is that you're not pushing that information away completely, because you always have the choice to go back to it, but you have also the option to not have it come to you. So for me, maybe there are days when I feel great and I want to see, you know, some fashion inspiration and so on. So I'll seek out these accounts that I don't follow. But most of the days I just don't want it to come to me. Like, I want to be able to choose when am I in the headspace to see about like, or read about the racist attacks or, you know, like femicides or whatever things are happening in the world. I think we do have to be more mindful about how we consume these things and limiting and like taking back the power and control over when do I want to see this and when do I want to consume this and when I don't. Okay, number 10 on my list. Last thing is, and it's gonna sound weird, but my last way to reduce anxiety is to let yourself feel anxious. Like, let yourself feel it. Just let yourself feel it. And a lot of times that really helps you release some of it. It's, you know how like in middle school or in high school when you'd be laughing in class and the teacher would be like, what's so funny? Let's everyone wait now until Lulu stops laughing, because that's what teachers would do. At least I hope that's not just like a Latvian thing, but that's what teachers would do. And then when all of the attention is on you and the teacher is giving you the permission to laugh, all of a sudden like it's not funny. Like, I don't want to laugh anymore. It's not funny. And I think it's a little bit of the same effect. And it's also a big thing that, you know, they teach you in meditation is that when thoughts are coming in and out of your head, you're not trying to push them away. You're noticing them, observing them, and releasing them. You're noticing the sounds that you hear, the pains in your body, the discomfort that you feel. Just notice it. Don't try to push it away. And I think that a lot of the things on this list, or a lot of the ways to deal with anxiety in general, are about just pushing anxiety away, because dealing with anxiety is really a long-term project, you know, like it's a years-long project of like trying to be comfortable and work on your mental health. So my number 10 thing is to really try to let yourself feel anxiety, which, you know, it can mean anything, just sitting down and closing your eyes and just feeling it. Like, where am I feeling it in my body? For me, anxiety is always in my throat, which is why I have breathing problems immediately when I have anxiety, and just becoming aware of it and just like looking at it. You know, this is it. It's here. Let it be. Let it be. And that can really, really help, because sometimes, I mean, when I have really bad anxiety attacks and I really feel like my throat is closing, like I'm going to die, like legit panic attacks where it feels like I'm not going to be able to take another breath and I'm going to die. But when I really stop and think about it, and I just like let myself feel it, I realize that this isn't death. Like, it's fine. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to die. I'm actually just going to let this feeling be here. And I feel the same way about negative emotions in general, you know, anger, sadness, jealousy, whatever type of things that you're feeling. We shouldn't just try to push it away. Let them be, you know, or a lot of childhood trauma. Oh my God, so much trauma that sometimes pops up in your head and you just want to push it all away, push it all away. But I think the level to which I'm trying to get to is to be able to sit with them comfortably and just let it be. That's it. Those are the 10 things on my list. Other things that, you know, some people say that works for them, like taking baths. I've tried that. Doesn't really help me deal with anxiety. Calling a friend. I don't believe in that. Doesn't help me at all. But I know that for some people it can help. Although I do want to say, if you're just calling your friend to push the anxiety on them, then be careful. Make sure that your friend can take that and that, you know, there's a common consent there and understanding and so on. Smoking weed doesn't help me with anxiety. I know it helps other people. So yeah, there's a ton of other things. These are just 10 things that really, really help me. I hope that you can take away some of it, and I want to hear everyone else's ways of coping with anxiety, ways of trying to stay calm in this crazy ass world. Comment them below or let me know, because I am always looking for ways to deal with anxiety. I mean, PhD tests my my ability to stay calm and sane every day. So all advice is welcome.